Welcome to another episode of Photoshop Fridays Tips and Tricks. I wanted to show you today an edit from beginning to end of just a basic portrait. Now, a lot of people when they look at the back of my camera think that perhaps I might have made a mistake in exposure because the image is a little dark, and this is a good example of that. You can see in this image that the face is definitely way too dark, and I need to bring that up. But what I look at when I'm taking photographs is the histogram, which is up in this corner here. As you can see, I've got all the colours and bits and pieces of information that I need within this exposure to make sure that when I edit it, the exposure will have all the information in it that it needs. I can easily come into here and make some changes to the exposure, and you can see how that changes the histogram at the top corner here. Now I can bring this up, I can actually bring it up quite considerably without it hurting the photograph because I'm using a raw file. So what I'm going to do is bring this up a little bit. I'm not too phased about this stuff in the background, but I do want to drop my highlights right down so that they're not so obvious. And you can see as I do that, my histogram is changing as well. I can increase my shadows a little as well. Don't want it too much. And then I can open my image. So now that I have my image open in Photoshop, I can go to work and do some editing on it. I'm going to copy my background, so if I make any mistakes, I've got a background layer here that I can go back to. I'm going to come in a little bit closer, and I'm going to, there's some dark circles under the eyes, so I'm just going to lighten those. I'm going to use my clone stamp tool under a lighten mode, and I'm going to drop the opacity down to about 30%. I'm then going to choose where I'm going to be getting it from, and I'll make this a bit bigger as a brush, and I'm just going to come in here underneath the eyes and just lighten that area up a little bit. Do the same thing on the other side here. Excellent. Now I still want that face to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to get my lasso tool and I'm going to make sure that it has a big feather on it. So this has got a 250 pixel feather, and I'm just going to bring this in and around here, which is the area that I want lightened up. I'm going to then come into my curves layer, and I'm just going to lift my curves up. Until I'm happy with where the image is at. I'm going to come in nice and close and see if he's got any skin problems or bits and pieces on there. Now he does have a scar over here, and he also has a scar up the top here. I'm not going to touch that. That's actually part of him. If this was a client's image, I would ask them before I would remove anything like that from them. I would possibly want to lighten these eyes just a little as well. So I'm going to do, I've done a Shift, Control, Alt and E, and what that does is it merges everything into one single layer. There's a number of ways to lighten the eyes, but I'm going to use my favorite, which is Screen, and I'm going to change that to Screen, and then I'm going to put a mask on it by going down to here and just holding the Alt key down, and that gets rid of everything. I then bring my little brush in here. I'm going to need it on white. Make sure that this is set to white, not black. And again, I'm going to bring my opacity right down because I don't want 100% opacity on this. I'm just going to bring a little bit of lightness into the eyes there. Now, it's always great to put a little bit into the eyes, but it's also good to also just come back a little bit and just do a little bit into the eye sockets as well. And I've gone a little bit heavy with that, so I'm just going to drop the opacity a little as well. Fabulous. Now I'm going to again use my lasso tool, and I'm going to go right to the very edges this time and just almost make like a rectangle around the outside here. And again, I'm going to go to my curves layer. This time though, I want to invert it, so I'm going to do Control I, which swaps it from black to white, And now as I bring that down, you'll see how it darkens on the edges. So I'm just going to come back and turn all these layers off so we can see the difference between the background layer here. So there's where we started and there's where we finished. And that really is what makes a difference between a professional photographer and somebody that's just made some snapshots. Now the other thing that you'll notice here is that my histogram is beautifully inside of all of that as well. So it means that the exposure and all the information for this image is in there. There's nothing that's been clipped or cut off in the highlights or in the shadows. Hope you enjoyed our episode today and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.